Welcome back. As always, I hope that this finds you well. And if not, I promise that better days are ahead. Just keep going. I've been planning to speak about this topic for a while. In fact, I recently found some notes that I wrote back in 2020, where, as I do, I approached this from an unconventional angle. But for whatever reason, I didn't record anything back then, but here we are today. If you are in the UK, you may have heard or even attended the farmers' rally last week, Monday, to protest over the lower quality food imports, many of which are labelled as British just because they are packaged here, even though they are grown or reared or slaughtered elsewhere. And this isn't just happening in the UK. This deception and undercutting of farmers is happening on a global scale. You really have to become aware of what is happening in your country of residence. As you can see here, hundreds of tractors coming from as far as Northern Ireland and thousands of farmers line the streets of Westminster to send a unified message to MPs to end the erosion of British farmers. Now, the government's paying farmers to destroy crops is not a new phenomenon. Farmers used to be paid for diverted acres. This is where land that was once used agriculturally is now not. Yet, ironically, the now unfarmed land had to look as though it was being farmed. Cover crops were planted instead of actual food. Makes so much sense. You may be wondering, why would anyone do such a thing? Well, to reduce surplus, create scarcity, food shortages, and food insecurity. However you want to word it, the result is still the same. Increased prices, monopolization of food, and where monopolies flourish, corruption is never far behind. But let me not get too economical. Have you ever thought about the food that you eat before it meets your lips, whose hands it went through, and what are they into? No? Well, let's go on a little journey. I'm sure everyone listening is familiar with the phrase, you are what you eat, and that's true. But do you even care? The truth is that your food has, for the longest time now, been weaponized. But you already knew this. It's not even hidden. The unpronounceable chemicals in your favorite so called breakfast cereals. Now your weaponized foods turn you into weapons where you not only destroy yourself but everything around you. Your uncontrollable mood swings, sudden outbursts, fits of rage, loose tongue, all linked back to what you eat. One of the 7 deadly sins is gluttony. How many of us indulge in this on a daily basis? And if not daily, definitely seasonally. With your big Christmas turkey with that beautiful British farm sticker on it, coming all the way from Sweden. Food has been used for eons on micro levels to poison and control, and on macro levels to destabilize nations, win wars, and reform. Now, here is where it gets very interesting, well, for me at least. Understanding that you are what you eat, how do you think this premise relates to meat?
Took these rats, they put one in a good environment, then they put the other 100 rats in a bad environment where they didn't get water. If they did get water, the water actually had acids in it. They made sure they didn't give them the regular food. I think they gave them like cat food or something like that with a bunch of pellets that was inside of them, right? They stuck them on top of each other. And they made sure that the space was very, very small. They never cleaned any poop out of the maze. They pissed out of the maze, and they left them in there. They left them in there for 4 months, and they watched how their behavior changed. They went back and they got the actual rats that came from the good environment, and they put them in the maze. They ended up going through the maze very, very fast. Then they ended up going to get the rats that they put in a bad environment and put them in the maze, and they didn't know how to even make it through the first section of the maze. So he's like, maybe this is a coincidence. So he did it. So what he did was he switched the rats. He took the rats that was smart, that made it through the maze, that was in the good environment, and he put them in a bad environment. Then he took the rats that was in a bad environment, that was dummies that couldn't make it through the maze at all, and he put them in a good environment. He waited 4 months. Then he took them back out. The same rats that was good and smart, that was in a good environment, that he put in a bad environment, now they couldn't make it through the maze. The same rats that was in the bad environments, that was dummies that couldn't make it through the maze, he put them in a good environment. Now they making it through the maze and making it through life just fine. So he said, damn, it ain't the genetics. It ain't who these people is as individuals. It's the community. It's the environment that you put these biological entities in that changes the way they interact with their environment and with themselves. Did you know he did another 6-month experiment on the same rats that he left in the bad environment? Guess what they started doing? Killing each other. Some of the male rats started humping other male rats, homosexuality. Look, the other rats that was at the bottom that didn't have the food, these niggas went upstairs to the other rats and started robbing them for food and water. I said, damn, this sound like your typical projects. Don't this sound like the PJs? This is a real rat experiment. So it made me start questioning. I had to sit back and really rub my chin. They turned into robbing, homosexual.
But what else are you gonna do?
Rats.
It's a survival mechanism at this point.
Now check this out though, guys. It was a selective group of female rats, and I really want y'all to look this up when y'all get home today. Watch this. It will fuck your mind up. The female rats, they started pampering themselves. They used to let their children just do what the fuck ever. They started pampering themselves. All they was worried about.
Hood rats. Which one of these?
See, these was the hood rats.
Okay.
The hood rats, right? Exactly. So the hood rats. I'm gonna quote that. The hood rats. All they did was pamper themselves. The only thing that they worried about was their fur. They worried about their weight. They didn't worry about their children anymore. They weren't worried about the mama papa rat. The only thing that they focused on was their actual selves. And then the father rat started going to other different parts of the actual rat experiment cage and started like bullying on the younger children. It was crazy, man. Look, it gets so deep when you really start watching it. It even rapists started happening. Rape with the older male rats in the community started raping the younger males and the younger female rats. Same thing that happens in the ghetto where a young girl will get touched on by their uncle, or a young male will get touched on by their uncle or their auntie. So once I realized, like, damn, me and my people is in a rat maze. This is a project. We are being psychologically experimented on.
Yaki dissected the Tyrone experiment perfectly. If you are unfamiliar with this, definitely look it up. This is all controlled demolition in human form and explains why the world is in its current state today. Ultimately, what we eat affects our behavior. Why do you think so-called hyper and hypoactivity disorders skyrocket year after year, among the countless amount of diet-related illnesses that continue to plague ourselves or someone we love? The Tyrone experiment is a clear demonstration of the relationship between what we consume, our environment, and our behavior. Hunger Games, anyone? Let's control what we can control before it's too late. As always, thank you for being on this side of YouTube. Peace.